Hello, and thanks to everyone for stopping by for this quick review on how to use and cite sources in your assignment 2, the Research-Based Persuasive Memo. Wait just a minute, you say. People actually use sources and cite them in real-world business writing? Absolutely. And of course, today there are dozens of websites devoted to teaching you how to use sources in the many types of business writing. Here's a page from bizfluent.com that shows you how to cite sources in a business plan. Here's a page from Career Trend that shows you how to cite sources in a business letter. And here's a page from smallbusiness.com that shows you how to cite sources in a business memo. What's going on here? Very simple. The use of citations in business documents is required, not just to be ethical, giving credit when using the work of others. Using sources in business documents is also a persuasive device. Why? Because smart decisions are crucial to the success of any business, and those decisions must be based on the most reliable, credible, and up-to-date information available. Some of that information comes from internal data, and some comes from outside sources, which must be cited. So, the purpose of Assignment 2 is to introduce you to the technique of using sources as a persuasive device. Here's our agenda. 2 and only 2 ways of using a source. What to cite and what not to cite. How to integrate sources in your writing. And the 5 most common mistakes when using sources. Okay, let's get started. Regardless of what kind of source you found or where you found it, there are only 2 ways of using it. You can quote it, word for word, just like you found it, or rephrase it in your own words. This is sometimes called paraphrasing or summarizing. Let's look at each. First, quoting. Here's a passage from Rachel Adele. The original text reads, "Deaths from colon cancer occur twice as often in women as in men, but the media make it seem that breast cancer is the #1 killer of women." Now, if you want to use that quote in your marketing report for your new colon cancer screening kit, you might write something like this. According to Rachel Adele, quote, "Deaths from colon cancer occur twice as often in women as in men, but the media make it seem that breast cancer is the #1 killer of women." Citation. Pretty simple. You introduce the quote with your own phrase, set off the quote with a comma, and mark the beginning and end with quote marks. Now, the only other way you can use Adele's material is to rephrase it in your own sentence, like this. Although twice as many women die from colon cancer as men, the media choose to focus on breast cancer as the main threat to women. Citation. The rephrased version says the same thing as the original, but in your own language. Sure, certain keywords have to be repeated. Colon cancer, women, men, media, breast cancer. That's fine. After all, there's only one way to say square root. But there's no doubt the original passage has been successfully translated into your own way of saying it. So that's it. Those are your only 2 choices when using an outside source. Quote it or rephrase it. And, by the way, both must be cited. Okay, a few pro tips. Tip number 1. Facts and stats are almost never quoted but simply stated. For example, for women, 72 is the average age for a colon cancer diagnosis. Citation Colorectal Cancer Alliance. But this you would not want to write. According to the Colorectal Cancer Alliance, quote, "The average age of a colon cancer diagnosis for a female is 72. There's no need for that quote. It's just a fact. You want to save your quotations. Why? Because in business writing, use quotations extremely sparingly. Limit their use to only those quotes that grab attention and drive home a point. For example, look at this paragraph on prison rehabilitation. Supposedly, rehabilitation includes providing inmates essential skills needed to assimilate after release. However, most inmates receive little meaningful help. Once released, They're right back where they started. And now the money quote. Talbot puts it this way. Many will be drug users who received no treatment, sex offenders who got no counseling, and high school dropouts who still can't read. Talbot's dramatic phrasing captures the frustration of the revolving door of incarceration. That's the kind of writing that justifies a quote. Now, what to cite, what not to cite. We've just answered the first question, what to cite. You cite anything and everything you quoted or summarized from someone else's work. The next question is, what not to cite? And the answer is, yourself. Let's explain. In business writing, when submitting a research-based memo, report, or letter, you must be the expert. You've done the research, talked to others, run tests, and done other things to reach your conclusions and recommendations, which you commit to writing. One of the ways of convincing others of the validity of what you write is with facts, data, and insights from credible, published authors in the field. In other words, in business writing, you normally only use sources to support something you've already said in your own words. Let's see how this works. Here's a sample paragraph from an assignment 2 memo that argues in favor of allowing remote working. It's long, but bear with me. Alan, I believe a remote work policy can potentially increase our employees' productivity by double digits. No extra pay, no overtime. We can likely get a substantial productivity increase simply by implementing the remote work option I'm proposing. A ton of research supports this recommendation. In 2015, a Stanford study found remote employees to be 13% more productive than their in-office counterparts. Citation. A more recent 2019 survey by Connect Solutions discovered that 2/3 of workers in general are more productive at home. And the reason for their increased productivity? There are several reasons, and they are powerful. When working from home, employees are less stressed, put in more hours, and take fewer days off. Citation, Hussein, and U.S. News & World Report. In other words, the old bromide that remote workers are less productive is a myth. We can use the truth to our advantage. Note the sandwich-like configuration of this paragraph with sources. The author first makes a claim in his own words and transitions to research supporting the claim. Then comes the research. Then more of the author's commentary that transitions to more research. Then the paragraph ends with the author's original claim and recommendation. It's called the source sandwich and looks something like this. In the top layer, in your own words, introduce the topic of the paragraph and discuss it. This is where you state your claims and recommendations in your own language. In the middle portion, present source evidence to support your claims. Remember to cite these sources with in-text citations. Finally, after presenting the evidence, explain how it supports the claim or recommendation you stated at the beginning of the paragraph. And now you see the secret to integrating sources. When writing, you are the expert. Your job is to present and support your opinions, your conclusions. You can do that with several persuasive devices. Storytelling, for instance, can be quite persuasive, but so can outside sources. When using these sources, your thoughts and ideas still remain the focus. And the numbers show this. Here, our model paragraph has 156 words total. 60% of them are the author's own thoughts, conclusions, and other words. Only 40% of the words refer to material from sources that are cited. Now also keep in mind that this is an example of an internal support paragraph where source usage is expected. But even so, the majority of the words in the paragraph are the author's own. Now, some pro tips for source integration. Tip number 1. Use transition sentences and words to set up the sources. For example, a ton of research supports this recommendation. Well, the reader now knows to expect a ton of research. Another example. And the reason for their increased productivity? There are several, and they are powerful. Now the reader expects those reasons for increased productivity, and they had better be powerful. Okay, tip number 2. Use commentary after the source to help integrate it. Example. In other words, the old bromide that remote workers are less productive has turned out to be a myth. You see, the phrase, in other words, signals that you're about to comment on what was previously said. So, commenting after a source is another way to blend it into the flow of your thoughts. Now, let's look at the 5 most common mistakes when using sources, and of course, how to correct them. Oops number 1 is missing a pair. An in-text citation must always be matched with a reference citation. You can't have one without the other. They're like shoes, socks, and gloves. Pretty much useless unless you have them both. In this example, all we see are reference citations at the bottom. However, without the corresponding in-text citations, we don't know how or where the sources are being used in the paragraph. So, we must add in-text citations to pair with the reference citations. Once inserted, the in-text citations make it clear which source is being used in which sentence. Oops number 2 is a dropped quote, sometimes called a ghost quote. This is a quotation that lacks a connection to the sentences before or after it. The quote seems like it dropped out of the sky and fell in a random place in the paragraph. In this example, the quote from Halpern and Luber is relevant but doesn't quite flow with the sentences before or after it. Let's read. Developing a greater executive presence is one aspect of this course that will be of great value to me. Presence is the ability to connect authentically with the thoughts and feelings of others. Citation. My first step to achieve more presence will be to engage employees in face-to-face conversations. To correct this problem, we can arrange the wording of the first sentence so that it acts as an introduction to the quote, and add a colon to connect them. One aspect of this course that will be of great value to me is developing my executive presence, Presence is the ability to connect authentically with the thoughts and feelings of others. Citation. Or we could use what is called a narrative citation. In this case, you use the author's name to lead into the quote. One aspect of this course that will be of great value to me is developing my executive presence. Halpern and Luber define presence as the ability to connect authentically with the thoughts and feelings of others. Citation. And you see, Halpern and Luber define is that narrative citation. Oops number 3 is the blind citation. An in-text citation by itself is blind. It can only refer to the name of the source. You, the writer, must make it clear what information from the source is being used. Here's our example. During the meeting, I will maintain eye contact with team members as they are speaking. Munter. Well, maintaining eye contact is always a good idea. However, it's not clear what contribution Munter made to the author's statement. To correct a blind citation, simply clarify what information from the source it is that you're using. You can do this with a paraphrase of the source. During the meeting, I will maintain eye contact with team members as they are speaking. As Munter and Hamilton point out, eye contact establishes a speaker-listener connection. Or you can use selective quotes, also called spot quotes, where you quote keywords from the source that informed your statement. During the meeting, I will use, quote, the crucial nonverbal skill of eye contact to establish, quote, a connection with team members as they are speaking. Munter. Here it's clear that these key words are being pulled from Munter and are the ones that help inform what the student wrote in the original sentence. Oops number 4 is one source, one paragraph. Well, it's fine to rely on one source to develop a point throughout a paragraph. However, it must be clear in which sentences the source is being used and in which sentences it is not. Our example. Barker and Gower examined the use of leadership presence as a way to increase productivity. Barker and Gower present a model of leadership that facilitates communication throughout the organization. However, Barker and Gower call for a retraining effort that may not be suitable for all companies. Nonetheless, Barker and Gower's approach has been shown to be useful to leaders looking to increase communication success. Wow, that's a lot of Barker and Gower. Props to the student for knowing that an in-text citation can apply only to the sentence it's a part of. But there has to be a better way of doing this. There is. Synonyms and pronouns. Let's read. Barker and Gower examine the use of leadership presence as a way to increase productivity. They present a model of leadership that facilitates communication throughout the organization. However, the authors call for a retraining effort that may not be suitable for all companies. Nonetheless, their approach has been shown to be useful to leaders looking to increase communication. Here we see that the use of synonyms and pronouns makes it clear that each of the sentences in the paragraph is a part of the Barker and Gower source. However, we did not have to repeat Barker and Gower umpteen times. Oops number 5 is the end of paragraph citation. Here's the problem when you put a citation at the end of a paragraph. The reader asks, which sentences in the paragraph does this Martinuzzi citation refer to? Only the last sentence? The last 2? The last 3? The fix is to use the techniques we've discussed to indicate which sentence or sentences the source is used in. Let's read. Bruna Martinuzzi explains that leadership generosity is about more than pay raises. For her, generosity in leadership also means giving someone a chance to innovate, giving praise, giving emotional attention, and giving respect. All provide, as she has shown, as much or more motivation than money. Martinuzzi believes that good leaders are guided by a generous heart and a loyal mind. Thank you very much, and I wish you the best of luck with your assignment 2, in which you must use sources as a tool of persuasion.